Hi everyone, this is Trey Parker's voice.
And this is Matt Stone's voice.
And this is us doing commentary. This is our voices doing commentary.
We haven't done a lot of commentary. We're going to try to do more than a commentary mini on this. We've been doing that for a long time. We're going to try to
What
make
happens
it to
is
the
we
end.
always do commentary, and then we end up saying things that are illegal and really offensive, and they cut it out. So it always ends up being 5 minutes long anyway. So then we decided, well, let's just do 5 minutes worth of stuff, because then, you know, odds are we'll just talk about the show and we won't start saying horrible things about people. But this time we came up with an idea where we're letting them, if the, you know, whoever's doing the DVD, if they need to edit something that we've said, then you're just going to hear this. So if you hear that music, it means that we were saying something illegal and
or something that would get Comedy Central sued.
In trouble. Yeah.
So
right.
they have a legal department that listens to this and makes sure we don't say anything that will get them sued.
So anyway, we're into Imaginationland. This is an idea we had for a long time. The idea about terrorists attacking our imagination we had for a long time, and we'd been wanting to do, and it was kind of one of those ideas that we kept talking to, you know, in sort of the middle of the run. We'd be like, oh, let's do that Imaginationland idea now, and then the animators would be like, dude, there's no way. I mean, we can't, you know, it was just too big of an idea to kind of pull off in the middle of a run. But actually right now we should talk a little about Tom Cruise and Scientology. Raping babies. And now back to Imaginationland. I just wanted to see if the music thing would work. So
Yeah.
I have no idea now.
I think they probably didn't hear
I'm
anything
assuming
but music.
they covered it. I hope
Considering
they did,
what you said about Tom Cruise. So anyway, Imaginationland, it is an idea we had for a while, and when we got into making it, it was, I don't know, we kind of decided to really, and kind of the reason it became a multi-parter was we kind of decided to use that form of a kid going to Imaginationland, of kind of like the Narnia movies, and like, of course, the big one being Harry Potter, where a kid gets taken from his shitty normal life and taken to this wonderful world where they are a prince or a king or special, and that's
the
kind
kid
of
is almost
formula.
always like an orphan or something.
An orphan, you know, they have really mean parents. I mean, it's a pretty classic thing. So, I mean, we decided that could give us kind of a form for you know, the Imaginationland part of it. But it really didn't start to really take off until we kind of coupled it with Kyle having to suck Cartman's balls.
Yeah,
and that's when the whole thing really started.
We had the whole
make some
theme
sense.
of, oh, let's do terrorists attacking our imagination because of the double entendre of that, you know, whole thing. And so we had that for a long time. But then finally we came up with this idea of how we would get into the show. And we just kind of threw out, yeah, and then Cartman can, you know, bet him that he saw the leprechaun. And then all of a sudden we had the ball-sucking thing. And then we were like, okay, well, now we have a trilogy. Now we have a trilogy for sure.
And actually, we did entertain for a few weeks when we were working on this last summer, making this like another South Park movie.
Yeah.
Because it felt like, well, this is maybe a big enough idea. It could hold, you know, all these ideas as a big enough theme.
Not the ball-sucking part, but the actual, the actual smart part of it.
Yeah, the actual smart part of it could. But I think we made the right decision. It felt like, I don't know, it felt more like, I don't know, it kind of just felt like a trilogy. It kind of felt like a TV
yeah,
show.
As we got into it too, it was funny because
like a movie.
lately, you know, we've been. I think that a lot of the best writing that's coming out of Hollywood right now is TV drama stuff. I mean, I think some of the best writing is in shows like Battlestar Galactica and 24, and shows that it's sort of the new serial, you know, format. And so I just wanted to do something because it was something to try, where you had to, you know, pick up where you left off last week and keep going with it. And we literally did that. I mean, we had some broad strokes. I mean, I think we always knew that Kyle was going to. Imaginary Kyle was going to suck Cartman's imaginary balls at the end.
Right,
like,
we knew that
was going to happen.
that was the end. We had our end figured out really early on.
And we knew that there would be a nuke in the government somehow. We kind of had that idea. But other than that, we literally made the first episode and it went on the air and it aired on Wednesday as usual, and everyone was like, wow, I can't wait to see what happens next week. And we're like, yeah, us too, because we had no idea.
Right, and we'd spend a lot more time making the first episode than a week, and so we were a little worried about the second and third episodes.
Yeah, we actually, with this episode, we actually came back and, like, we did something we hardly ever do, which is we came in and we kind of worked on stuff even though we didn't have a show airing that week. We came in and worked on stuff in the summer.
We worked in our summer. It was like going to summer school.
It really, it sucked.
It's like
and it's pretty funny,
to
too, because a lot of the stuff we worked on, you know, we learned, for one thing, we learned why we shouldn't do that and why we don't do that, because basically we came here, and even though we came up with some good stuff, we just spun our wheels, and then it went from basically what it ended up being. It started off that way, and then all of a sudden we started going, oh, no, wait, okay, I know, the Imaginationland is one idea, and then we'll do the Cartman ball sucking as another story, and we tore the two shows apart, started to make them two different shows, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, the Imaginationland is just one episode, and it was just sort of
and then for a while
exercise.
We had a leprechaun chase in the beginning, and we thought there would be a whole nother episode just about leprechauns.
Yeah, because we loved the leprechaun chase, and we already had that animated, and we're like, oh, but that scene's so good, so maybe we'll just keep the leprechaun in, and then we'll keep it for the Halloween special, and it can be a leprechaun that gets bitten by a werewolf and becomes a wereprechaun.
Yeah, and then gets bitten by a vampire.
See, this is what happens when we don't have a show airing that week.
And it becomes a wereprechaun pyre, and then
it gets killed by a zombie,
and then it's
but then it comes back to life, so then it's a zombie wereprechaun pyre. And then it turns out it's actually an alien.
Yeah. We actually had that idea for an episode. You might see it next Halloween.
Yeah, actually. As soon as we start running out of ideas, you'll be seeing the zombie wereprechaun pyre for sure.
Let's go back to Imaginationland. This scene here where the boys get taken to Imaginationland, this was why we kind of went back and forth on the leprechaun thing, because we really did think for a while that to do the Imaginationland justice, to get into it and have it be funny in that kind of Harry Potter, Narnia kind of way, that the show shouldn't start with a leprechaun. It should start with, like, the power goes out, or the parents saying, right, like, you know, why don't you guys go outside and use your imagination? So that you have that classic thing where the kids are outside going,
having to use their imagination. Yeah, what are we going to do? How do we do that?
And then he shows up, and it felt like, well, we needed that kind of pure open. So for a lot of time, for a while, this scene was like the second scene of the show. The first one being where the kids are kicked outside and told they can't. They need to use their imaginations.
Then we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how we could go from this to the ball sucking thing. Like, then they were going to see,
and then they were going to bet about when they see a leprechaun in Imaginationland.
But anyway, I'm
glad it ended up the way it did. But it did take a long time to figure out how to get into this, because there was going to be a theme, and we ended up bailing on it. In the beginning, there was going to be that theme of, like, why don't you go use your imagination, like this kind of thing. Like, kids don't use their imaginations anymore; they're kind of too busy texting and playing Xbox and shit. And then we were going to show how bad their imaginations really are.
Yeah.
And maybe they shouldn't use their imagination.
There was a whole lot of different ideas with Imaginationland. And then I remember that we just sort of held on to it, because we were like, well, we don't know what to do. Let's just hold on to it, and we'll do the run of South Park without using this. Right. That's, first of all, that's never going to happen. So it was like the idea that we're going to somewhere be in the middle of a run of South Park and have a show that's kind of done and not use it. But we thought, okay, well, let's just hang on to it and we'll figure out what to do with it. And then basically by the third week, we were like, okay, we're out of ideas. We got to use this Imaginationland idea. And I remember we actually spent about an hour where we were going to just make it one episode. This entire thing was going to happen in one episode, which would have been insane.
Without the ball sucking, though.
And now looking at it now, the idea that this would have all been in one episode was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just, there's just too much going on. And it went from like, oh, let's make it a 2-parter to let's make it a 7-parter.
We talked about making it a 5-parter because we'd done 2 episodes before this, which is, you know, the funny thing is the first episode of this run was a Tourette syndrome, where Cartman pretends he has Tourette's, and then the second one was this brilliant episode called More Crap, where Randy takes the world's biggest crap, and then you find out Bono is actually a piece of crap.
And so there was a lot of hidden meanings behind that show that people didn't get.
And so they were pretty like scat heavy South Parks. And then it was like, we thought it was so funny that we did one of those that was like, I love that show More Crap, but I just, you know, that like, you know, sometimes we have these like live in two worlds where like we get to do total shit jokes, and then every once in a while we'll do like something that's considered quote unquote smart, and then we win awards for it. And so then like we just put just more crap, and then the next episode we did Imaginationland, which we knew we had worked on a long time, and
we knew it had at least and it
had a lot of production value. It looked like it was much bigger